Alright, so it's that time again. We actually have more Sonic news, and I don't have to cover drama. Thank God. So, you guys might remember a while back I did a video talking about the Sonic Rangers leaks and how legitimate I thought they were, how I thought they didn't exactly sound great, and all that stuff, yada yada yada. Well, there's actually been another leak about Sonic Rangers, and this one seems pretty legitimate. So this one is actually a video by a guy called Daki, I think it is. There'll be a link in the description to the original video. And yeah, this is very, very interesting. This dude conducted an interview with somebody who apparently played the game. And they say that this person is a pretty reliable source, and they don't think that they're lying. So this could be interesting. So I'm going to do is I'm just going to read out. Also, sorry if you hear my chair creaking. I'm sitting in a really squeaky chair right now, so I apologize if that causes problems. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the interview, read all the questions and answers, and give my thoughts, basically. They're all sort of condensed down. They're not the exact answers. I've just sort of condensed them down. I've taken notes. But anyway, let's not waste time. Let's get into this. So the first question was, how did the game start? And apparently the game starts with a title card. It says Sonic Rangers and then working title. So yeah, I might have been right when I said that Sonic Rangers isn't the final title. And obviously recently we heard about the whole Sonic Frontiers thing. I didn't cover that, and I don't really know anything about that. But yeah, that was the thing. That was the thing that happened recently. And it also says there was a beautiful panoramic view with in the background with an unidentified orchestral theme, and apparently there was options for English and Japanese text. Now, unidentified orchestral theme, that's interesting. I think we kind of expected something like that, but options for English and Japanese text, this is, I don't know if I believe that. Now look, I'm not saying that the game isn't going to have that. Of course the game will have that when it's finished, but this is a playtest build. Why would they have an option like that? Especially considering in the previous leaks, it was stated that the game's voice acting was in English. So that feels very weird. But I'm not going to just discount it for that. I just sort of wanted to bring up that I thought that was weird. So the next question is, how far along do you think the game is? And the playtester said, pretty far along, but still got a lot of jank. And next year apparently isn't even certain. Because they said the game, the fucking announcement trailer says the game is coming out next year, but according to this person, it's not actually confirmed that it could be next year. It probably will be next year, but they say that that's not entirely certain, so that's interesting. So the next question is, how did the game look visually? And they said it looks stunning. It was running on a high-end PC hooked up to an LCD, which, okay, it looks good when hooked up to that. That's pretty good. Apparently, it has 06 vibes with the scenery and all that, in the way that Sonic doesn't fit in the environment at all, which is I have no problem with Sonic being around humans. Obviously, there's probably not going to be any humans in this, but I've never had a problem with the whole humans in Sonic thing. But in 06, it looked fucking horrible. Sonic didn't fit in those fucking places at all. So that's kind of concerning, but on the other hand, I don't really know. But also, apparently the enemies look straight out of Breath of the Wild and Dark Souls, which is interesting. Interesting choice. So that's a thing. What could you buy in the Tar/shop? Now, I wasn't even aware that this was a thing. I don't remember the leaks bringing up like a Tar or a shop or something, so that's interesting. But apparently you could buy 3 things. The spin cycle, which we see in the CGI trailer. The light speed dash, which it's cool to see that back. And the stomp. Don't know how I feel about you having to unlock the stomp, but we'll just move past that. But apparently, these TARs use Forces UI as a placeholder, obviously, so that's interesting. The next question is, how were the enemies? And they comment on the combat here. So the combat is very simplistic, but apparently the enemy variety is pretty good. And they mentioned a couple different things, including a rock monster, which is weird. It says it has good AI, and apparently if you walk slowly around the grass, they won't spot you as fast. And it also mentions bigger enemies that will chase you around the environment. Sega, this is the perfect opportunity to take my advice from my last Rangers video and implement a Fallout style finisher system where you can choose what body part to attack. Please implement something like that. I think that would fit so well for a game like this. But either way, I'm just rambling now. But no, the idea of being able to walk slowly through the grass so they won't spot you, that's interesting. But I doubt I'll ever use it since this is a fucking Sonic game. But whatever. Next question is about level design. So the level design for the puzzle and challenge and shit is decent and very simple, apparently. It's also possibly not final, but it felt very traditional Sonic, which is interesting. And that leads me to believe that what I said about this game only not really having levels, like it's just sort of a straight up open world game, might be right if this is true. Obviously do take this whole thing with a pinch of salt. And yeah, I'm sorry, I don't like that. I don't like that. I've come out and said before why I don't think a Sonic game would work without levels, all that stuff. Go watch the other Sonic Rangers video if you want to hear my thoughts on that. But yeah, I'm mixed on this. I'm not saying the game will turn out bad because of this, but it's not exactly a good sign in my eyes. But whatever, we'll move on from that. So, did any of Sonic's dialogue stand out to you? That's the next question. And apparently, it was all flavor text about the it was all flavor text. But there was one line about how the environment doesn't seem right, and Eggman probably has something to do with it. So that's definitely interesting. And there's also something about a cyberspace apparently being an illusion, which they do talk about a little bit more later. So Eggman is brought up. So it looks like I was probably right when I said that Eggman is going to serve a similar role to the one that he did in the adventure games, where like he causes something bad to happen, but then in the end he's not really the main threat. Like it's going to be that sort of thing. So that's cool. That's kind of where I think he fits as a villain. Anyway, I've never really found him that intimidating as a villain. So that works. The next question is, how would you assess combat? Apparently the combat is actually too simplistic, and button mashy is a pretty good way to describe it, because you can basically just button mash your way through the whole thing. And apparently Sonic uses punches and kicks, as well as slow motion finishers on bigger enemies, similar to in Breath of the Wild. So people are kind of like, whenever they hear about the punches and kicks, a lot of people are thinking Sonic Boom, and it's like, yeah, I see why they're thinking that, but I don't know, Sonic Boom in my opinion wasn't necessarily a bad idea. It turned out pretty badly, but the game itself was not a bad idea. So I'm fine with this. It's whatever. And the slow motion finishers on bigger enemies is actually pretty cool. Again, you should use that Fallout thing that I brought up in my last video. And he says that the combat probably gets a little more complex as it goes on and you gain more moves. So that's at least good to hear. Next question is, how long do you think the game has been in development? And they say around 4.5 years. Apparently the game has been in talks. It's like there's been planning for this game since spring of 2017, because they were testing to see if they could do a traditional 3D Sonic game in the modern era. And this all but confirms basically my suspicions about Forces. So there's been a lot of people coming out recently and saying, oh, people say Forces didn't have any effort put into it, but look at this, look how good it looks. I've always thought that Forces was a play it safe game, because they just threw in a bunch of shit that they knew the fan base loved, like custom characters and classic Sonic and vocal themes and a serious story, a new villain. They just took all the stuff that the fan base wanted and slapped them together in the most sloppy way they possibly could. And this makes me think that the only reason they threw Forces together was to hold the fans over until they were able to make this game. Not saying that's necessarily the truth, but that's what that sounds like to me. And that would make a lot of sense considering how Forces turned out. So, I'm just saying. Just saying. But apparently, and before they move on to the next question, apparently there's also talks with Epic about using the Unreal Engine, but they're not sure if those talks ever went through or anything. So that'll be interesting to see a Sonic game on the Unreal Engine. So that could be kind of interesting. I'm actually kind of interested to see if that was true or not. So apparently the next question is, how did Sonic look? And they say apparently it's the best he's looked in a decade, and the model is like Unleashed quality and has all of his usual idle animations. So it's good that he has his idle animations back. I don't know where they went in Forces, but yeah, that's good to hear. Apparently the CGI trailer is an accurate representation of how he's going to look, but he says there's no information on how the Switch version is going to look. And I imagine, if I had to guess, I'd say the Switch version is probably going to look, the model for the Switch version is probably going to be something similar to Sonic Colors Ultimate model, just hopefully without all the bloom, because Jesus Christ. And yeah, that's basically all I'm saying. It's good to hear that apparently the model's looking good though, so that's interesting. At least it's not the Forces model, because Jesus Christ. So the next question is about DLC. And they said apparently there's a long-term DLC plan with a possible expansion pass or season pass to make up for the expense of the game. And look, I don't know how play testing works, but they say this, like they say that there is a long-term DLC plan. Why would they have been told this if they were going into playtest a game? As I say, I don't know how playtesting works. I don't know if you do get told stuff like that. But I always imagined you probably wouldn't be told too much about the game. You'd just sort of be there to test how the current build works. But whatever. Maybe I just don't know enough. But yeah, I just feel like they wouldn't be told something like that. And that's why I'm a little bit suspicious about this. But regardless, I'm not saying it's 100% like, oh, this is debunked. I'm just sort of saying I find that a little bit weird. But yeah, a long-term DLC plan, that could be interesting. I'd be interested to see what they do with something like that. So that's pretty interesting. The next question is, were there any interesting lines that stuck out to you? Which they basically already asked this question. And the answer was basically, aside from the one about Eggman, no. Apparently Tails was mentioned in passing at one point, but nothing more. So I don't know why they asked that question twice, but yeah. The next question is about the release year, which I swear to God they already talked about. But then again, the answer this time is there was no way this game was going to come out this year or next or last year. Like there was no way that was going to happen this year or last year because the game was planned for this year. There is no way that was going to happen. So it's good to know that Sega at least know to delay the fucking game. And they even say releasing the game in its current state would have been a bad idea. Sega, why didn't you do the same thing with Sonic Colors Ultimate? Just saying, literally would have taken you, like, well, I guess more accurately, Blind Squirrel, like a month or two to fix that game up. Really? Really? But anyway, so after this, it says the earliest build was apparently from around autumn 2019. So that's interesting to know that there was a build that early, like that long ago. Okay, sorry, there's the fucking ice cream man is going outside my house and he won't turn off his fucking jingle. There we fucking go. Sorry about that. You guys probably couldn't even hear that, but yeah, that was pissing me off. Anyway, so yeah, that's interesting to know the earliest build was from autumn 2019. That's a while ago. But yeah, so the next question is there any other games that Rangers is similar to other than Breath of the Wild? And they bring up two games in particular. They say when it comes to platformers, the two closest are Banjo-Kazooie and the Sonic World stuff from Sonic Jam. Look, if you guys don't know, anything being similar to Banjo-Kazooie is an immediate win in my eyes, because I fucking love Banjo-Kazooie. So that's interesting. The only problem is, though, would that kind of style work for a Sonic game? You know? It's like that sort of big open kind of thing. I just can't see that working for a Sonic game. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people probably don't agree with that, but I don't know. A Sonic Collectathon doesn't sound right. It's probably not going to be a Collectathon, but regardless. They do say you're given a multitude of tasks to complete in order to progress, which, yes, does sound like that, like Banjo-Kazooie Mario 64 style. Like, where you have to do a bunch of things before you can move on to the next section. So, that sounds like it could work, but I'm still not 100% sold on that. Next question is, how big was the world map? And they said it was fucking huge. And that was only a small part of the map that they saw. They're not sure if there's a lot of other biomes because they didn't really have the time to explore it. But they said it's likely the size of Breath of the Wild or Skyrim's world map. And apparently it even has that like thing that all open world games are doing now, where you have like the cliff that you look out on at like the world. Apparently it does that because like all open world games are doing that nowadays. Like Breath of the Wild started that and now all of them are doing that. So apparently this one does it too, which is fine in my books. That's always a cool shot whenever they do it. So that's whatever. The next question is about renders. Apparently there was a couple renders that they saw of Sonic running around, and they looked a lot more Generations 06 style, as opposed to the overly serious ones from Forces, which is a good thing, but I also, they also apparently told them, out, like whenever they were playtesting the game, they told them out straight that the fucking Forces ones were way too drag, so I mean, it took balls to say that, but I'm sorry, I don't believe that you said that to them. I'm sorry. Anyway, so apparently they're also, this is a big thing here, apparently they're also working on a new form for Sonic, which they only got a brief glimpse of, but it is like clearly a ripoff of Goku's Ultra Instinct. So, yeah, they've kind of given up on the whole trying to separate themselves from DBZ, so whatever. And although it does say that this form might not be for Rangers, it could be for the comics or a mobile game, but they're not sure. So, whatever. That's kind of interesting. I don't know why they're doing the new super form rather than just going with fucking Hypersonic, but whatever. Next question is about the Wisps and the Ghost Girl. And Chamix, you can rejoice because there are no Wisps. Yeah, you get boost from collecting rings, which is how it's done in Generations and Unleashed, which is a good thing. And apparently whenever you run out of boost, the Ghost Girl gives you a little bit extra while shouting Sonic-ku, which is how Sonic is said in Japanese, which confuses me because all the previous leaks said that all the dialogue was in English. So, I mean, I guess it makes sense because the Ghost Girl's a new character that might not have an English voice actress yet, but that's kind of weird. Also, I can't hear the word Sonic-ku without thinking of unholy things, but whatever. So the next question is about controls. Apparently it feels nothing like Forces or Generations or Unleashed or even Adventure. Apparently it's like a much more open and free, and from what they say, it sounds to me like it's a lot more physics-based, which is interesting. That's definitely a good thing for Sonic because, you know, the whole fucking series is always supposed to be physics-based, so that's interesting to me. They don't really talk too much about, they don't go too in-depth, but they just say it's completely different and there is a lot of physics-based stuff, which makes sense for an open-world game, so that's good. And the final question is, how are the cyberspace levels? So this is some new information. Apparently, the CGI trailer that we saw where Sonic was glowing blue, apparently that's what happens when Sonic enters cyberspace. He starts glowing and then he's warped in cyberspace, which is kind of interesting. He kind of brings up that it's similar to something from Mega Man EXE or something like that. I don't really know much about that. But then since they only played 2 of the cyberspace levels, and they're just the typical boost style, I imagine something probably similar to Unleashed or Generations, which is cool in my eyes. And they said the first one starts off on a Green Hill clone. It's not actually Green Hill, it's just something similar to Green Hill. As long as it's not like Windy Hill levels of similarity, I'm fine with it. Because let's be honest, every Sonic game has some sort of Green Hill clone. Like the original classic games, you have Green Hill in the first game, then you have Emerald Hill in the second game, you have Palm Tree Panic in CD, and then you have Angel Island in 3. They're all similar to Green Hill. Like, come on, let's just be honest here. So yeah, I'm not really surprised at that. But they also say there's a factory level that kind of reminded them of Chemical Plant, but I don't know. I'll have to see that to determine if it's close enough to Chemical Plant to be called a ripoff. So that's whatever. That's sort of something that's like, it's cool they have levels. It's cool the cyberspace levels actually look like normal levels. I just thought they were going to look all fucked up like they did in Forces, but apparently they are going to look like normal levels, so that's interesting. They also say that the loading screen seemed... Did I just say loading screen? That's not a good thing. They said that the loading screen apparently suggests that the levels are some kind of digital recreation or simulation, which is interesting and hints to Eggman being a lot more important to the plot than the other leakers were making it out to be. And they say that in order to get a Chaos Emerald in it, you need to get an S rank. And they say that they only managed to get 1 Chaos Emerald, so they didn't get an S rank first time through one of the levels, which is probably a good thing. So yeah, that's all the questions that were asked, and all the answers that were given. So what do I think of this? Do I think this is real? Do I think this is credible? Honestly, there are a few things in here that do seem a little bit off to me. Like, the big one is them knowing as much about the DLC and release and all that stuff as they did. But I don't know. I don't know. Personally, I think this is quite credible. And to be honest, if this game does come out, although it does have some things that don't sound typical Sonic to me, I do think this game could be good. Also, it looks like I was right whenever I said that the cyberspace levels are just special stages, because yeah, you get a Chaos Emerald for getting an S rank on those, so that's interesting. It looks like I was right about that. So, yeah. Do I think this is real? I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure. It's not like a lot of the other leaks where I'm like, yeah, this is probably real, or this is definitely fake. I honestly don't know with this one. This is like, I'm leaning more towards it being real, but you can never be too sure with this kind of stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. Obviously, the original video, the link in the description if you guys want to see the original video. This was sort of just to give you my commentary, my thoughts on it. So, if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like. Leave a comment in the comment section below telling me if you do think this is real, and if it is real, if you like the way it sounds. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.